What is going on, guys? Welcome back to part 5 of the Builds in Instagram app series. In the last part, we put together more of our registration and login flow. We got a user registered. And in this part, we're going to continue and set up sign out functionality, as well as get started on our core UI and configure Firebase storage. So that said, make sure you destroy the like button as always, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's jump right in. So we're literally exactly where we left off. We got the login screen here. I've got Firebase opened up here. So we're gonna log into the user's account that we created. If you recall, I put an extra M here accidentally. So we're just gonna go with it instead of recreating that account. So I'm gonna say joe@gmail.com. And we're gonna say password is password, I think. So we'll go ahead and hit that login button. And as you see, we are now signed in into the core app UI. And actually, if I close and open it, we should stay persisted and we should always open up here again since the user is still signed in. So let's go ahead and add some UI, namely a way to sign out, because we're gonna wanna sign in and sign out to test things, and it's gonna get kind of annoying. And before we even do that, let's fix up these tab bar icons. So I went ahead and opened up Instagram on my phone just to make sure that we're building the app as close as possible to the original thing. So let's go to our main.storyboard here, and we're gonna change up some of the icons. So the discover icon, actually, I realized, or the explore icon, is just a search hourglass or search glass. Whoops, search, if I can spell it correctly, or the magnifying glass, that's what I was going for. It looks like it didn't want to change. Magnifying glass, all right, so looking good. And the plus is good, and the notification one is actually a heart. So we're gonna grab a heart, and I'm also gonna change back the tint color. So the tint color, we're gonna make this, if we go to image tint, what we want is label tint actually. So now if you go ahead and hit Command R to build and run, if you recall in dark mode, we had a weird issue where the tint color in dark mode should be white, but it wasn't actually. So now label is actually gonna respect light and dark mode. So that's looking good. So how are we gonna have the user sign out? So in the real Instagram app, if you go to your profile, there's a little gear icon up here. And that gear icon is basically gonna open up the settings controller. So I believe we already created settings. If we go under other and general, we're gonna want to grab settings view controller and set this guy up. So settings view controller is gonna have a table view in it. So let's set up a table view pretty quickly. Now it's pretty simple to do that. We're gonna create a private table view property in here. It'll be a UI table view, and we're gonna do all of this UI in code. So table is gonna be a UI table view. Let's call this table view. Let's return it here. And we actually wanna create this with a style and a frame. So the frame is gonna be 0 and the style is gonna be grouped, and grouped will allow us to get the default look of that grouped table view sections that you'll see in a minute. And let's remember that we want to register a cell. So we're going to say UI table view cell.self. And we're going to register it for a cell ID of cell. After that, we can add this as a subview. We're going to add table view. Let's not forget to set a background color. So we're going to say background color of this guy will be system background. And we want to, of course, set a frame. So we're going to say view did layout subviews. And for those of you that aren't aware, this function gets called after all the other subviews have laid out, so we can assign our frames in here. That way it'll account for things like the safe area and whatnot. So that's what that's all about. And we also want to set the delegates and the data source. Now we're going to want to extend this to conform to the table view delegate and the data source. Whoops, this should be, let's get rid of my antivirus pop-up. This should be data source. And in here, we're gonna want to start off with 3 functions, 4 functions actually. So number of sections, we'll just say is 1 for now. Number of rows, we're also gonna say is 1. cell for row at index path, and did select row at index path. So let's go ahead and quickly implement these. So this one's going to be cell is table view. We're going to dequeue a reusable cell with the ID, and that's the ID we just registered up above. And this should be index path. And we're going to return the cell down here. And let's leave that empty for now. What we're going to want to do is say the text label equals something, but we're going to use some models to drive that. And here we're going to say table view deselect row at index path, animated true. And we basically want to handle cell selection here, like so. And let's see, what else do we want to do? So we added the table view, we've got all of this set up. Now we want some models that are gonna drive our actual cells. And before we do that, let's make this class final, which means nobody can subclass it. And let me add a doc string. So view controller to show user settings. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do is create a struct up here. And this is going to be setting cell model. And each one of these cells, each one of these models rather, is going to have a title as well as a handler. And the handler is going to be a closure that takes no parameter and returns void. And if you hit Command B, we should be compiling. All right, no errors. And now on this view controller now, we're going to want a private variable called data, which is going to be a collection of these, a collection of setting models. And the reason this is a two-dimensional array is because we're going to have multiple sections. So here we're going to say configure models. Let's create that function down here. It's going to be configure models. And we're going to say data append section. And we're going to say here, we're just going to have one section for now. And this is going to have a setting cell model. The title is going to be log out. And the handler is going to be a closure. And since this is the last parameter, we can say it's a trailing closure. And we're going to say weak self in. If you're not familiar with what this is, it ensures we don't cause a memory leak because we're referencing self. But in here, we're going to say self did tap log out. And let's put that function right here. Did tap log out. And we'll implement that in just a moment. That error should go away. We've appended data. Number of sections now is data.count. Number of rows in the section will be data, the section at end position dot count. And the cell title here will be data, index path dot section, and index path dot row. So let's see. We've got the section, we've got the row, and we want the title from that model. So if you hit Command B, it should be compiling still. And to actually handle, once this is selected, we want to get the model out, and we're going to say that's data, index path section, and then from that, the row, that's the model, and we simply want to say model.handler, and it's a function, so we can go ahead and just call it like that. Or if you want to get a little more shorthand, what you could do is get rid of that and simply do that. So that'll basically go ahead and invoke that model's handler, which is this guy. And in this model's case, we are calling this did tap logout. Now, what are we going to do in here? We are going to show a action sheet to the user and confirm that they want to actually log out, and then we're going to log out. So how do we actually log out? This is the one exception where we're not going to use the auth manager. Well, actually, I take that back. We are going to use the auth manager. So let's go to the auth manager. Let's keep in our good practice as we build this app. And we're going to add a function in here. And we're going to say it is logout with a completion handler which is going to return a Boolean if we successfully logged out. And in here, we're going to say do try auth.auth, and I believe it's sign out. And if an error gets thrown, we're going to catch it. And we're going to print said error. And if we throw an error, basically, we're going to say completion is false. If we successfully do sign out, we're going to say completion is true, return. And let me also put this printf here and do a return here. And that's going to be basically our logout. Attempt to log out Firebase user. And if we come back here to our settings controller, and here we can simply say auth manager shared logout, and again, trailing closure syntax. So we can simply do that. And let's see, I believe we need to do that. And actually, I don't think we can do trailing closure here because it's only one parameter. So I take that back. So we're going to say success in. So if the user successfully signs out, we're going to present that login screen again. Otherwise, something went wrong. So we should show an error. This should honestly never happen. So we'll leave it empty for now. And in this case, we want to present login. And we want to do this on the main thread. Whoops. So let's go ahead and cut to this with a command X. We're going to say dispatch queue main async and throw this in here. And if you recall, we're already presenting that login screen in the home controller, and we're doing that right here, show login. So let's go ahead and simply copy that, and we can throw that right here. And the other thing that we want to do is, because we're on this settings controller, when we're doing all of this, once let's put self dot here so this stops complaining. Once the login controller shows, we should, on completion, we should actually do animated true. And on completion of this presentation, we should actually get rid of the settings and switch back to the main tab. That way, when the user logs in again, they're back on the home tab rather than on settings. So this is the last parameter. So let's put some trailing closures in here. So what we're going to do, let's get rid of that. Command B to make sure it's compiling. So we're going to say self.navigation controller pop to root view controller. Animated, you can say false. And we're going to say self.tabbar controller. We're going to say, we're going to change the selected tab. So we're going to say set, should be set selected tab. Or we should be able to assign this. So selected index, we'll make that 0. If we hit Command B, should be good to go now. And finally, we should present it with a gear. So I know we typed out quite a bit of code in here, basically set up the majority of this controller. So let's actually present it and see what we've got going on. So again, we're going to go to the profile view controller. And in here, we want to add a little gear icon up here. And when the user taps it, we're going to push on that settings controller. So let's get rid of these commented out lines in our profile controller. And here we're going to say view.background is system background to start off. We're going to say configure navigation bar. Let's put that function right below. And here we're going to say navigation item dot right bar button item is going to be a UI bar button item. Go ahead and open the constructor. There's quite a few in here to choose from. We're going to want the one with an image and let's see, just an image and a style. The image is going to be a UI image with a system name, and I believe a gear is an SF symbol. Style can be done. Target is self. Action is did tap settings. Let's call it button. Did tap settings button. And let's go ahead and create this function. Make sure you annotated Objective-C so it can be referenced. And in here, we simply want to create the view controller, which is the settings view controller. We're going to assign its title. And we're simply going to say navigation controller. We're going to push on the VC, animated true. Go ahead and hit Command B, and we should be compiling now. Go ahead and hit Command R, and let's see what we get. So if we come here, we see that we have a gear icon. When we tap it, we get our settings controller, and we have logout. When we tap this, looks like we signed out right away successfully. If we close and reopen the app, we should still be signed out. So one thing I forgot to do on settings is I forgot to show an action sheet to have the user confirm that they want to sign out. So let's go ahead and do that. So before we call this auth manager stuff, we're going to create an action sheet here, which is going to be a UI alert controller with a title. It'll be log out. Are you sure you want to log out? Style will be an action sheet, and we want to add 2 actions to this, 2 buttons. The first one is going to be a cancel button, of course. So go ahead and create that. Simply call it cancel. Style is cancel. Handler is nil. And let's copy and paste that. Let's Control I that to fix the indentation. And the next one's going to be destructive, which is a red colored button, and it's going to be log out. And in this case, a handler will be underscore in because we want to discard the results. And let me actually fix this indentation so it doesn't get weird when we put stuff in it. Move all of this auth manager stuff inside of this guy. Hit Command B. Should be compiling. And of course, we want to present the action sheet, animated true. And to make sure this doesn't crash on iPad, you also need to assign its popover presentation controller. And there are 2 things on here you need to assign: the source view and the source rect. Source view, we'll call this, let's say, the table view. This should be done more appropriately, but we'll do this later to take care of iPad layouts. Source rect will be table view dot bounds. Hit Command B. Basically, if you don't assign this on iPad, the action sheet doesn't know how to present itself, so it will crash your app actually. And in this case, we're just going to say fatal error could not log out user. Sign in. Let's say Command R and log in once more and make sure that sign out works. So joe@gmail.com with 2 M's. Password is password. Let's hit sign in. We successfully sign in. Let's come to our profile, hit settings, hit log out. We get the sheet. We hit this. We successfully log out. And if you recall, when we sign in again, we should be on the first tab and not settings anymore. So if we sign in, looks like we are still on the profile tab, but we're not in settings. So we can leave that, I guess, for now. We'll come back to that. So more stuff. Okay, core UI. So this video is already about halfway through, so let's see how much UI we can knock out. So let's start talking about each of these tabs and stubbing out the UI for the core tabs. So basically, this is the profile, and the profile is going to have a header up here, and the header is simply going to be the profile image, the follower and post count, a bio, and then down below here, we want to show basically the user's posts, maybe an icon to go to their tagged posts, so on and so forth. We also want their username up here. So how are we going to display the core UI? So we're going to be using a collection view, and a collection view will allow us to be flexible enough to achieve all the different layout things that we'd like. So let's go ahead and on our profile view controller, let's go ahead and set that up. So what we're going to want to do here is create a private var, and this is going to be a collection view, and it'll be a UI collection view optional. And the reason it's optional is we're going to instantiate it with a flow layout. So in here, we're going to say collection view is a UI collection view, and we're going to say frame is 0, And the layout is going to be a layout. Now, what is this layout? So we're going to create it right up here. And it'll be a UI collection view flow layout. And the layout allows us, as the name implies, to control things about how the collection view is laid out. So things like scroll direction and item size. So we're going to do scroll direction. We're going to do section insets, which is the padding between sections. And we're going to simply start off with 0, 0, 0, 0. And let's see, what else do we want? We definitely want to add this as a subview. So here we're going to say collection view, but we're going to say guard let this equals this because we defined the collection view as optional to begin with. The reason we define it as an optional here is so we can create the layout here, and we want to reference things on self, and you can't do that as a property. And the reason we need to reference self is we're going to say item size for this, for the width and the height, is going to be self.view.width over 3. So we have 3 columns. And we also want the height to be equivalent since the squares will be, or the cells will be squares. So that is that. We add it as a subview. We also want to add, assign the delegate and the data source. And this will start giving us errors because we haven't conformed yet. So let's come down here and add an extension to our profile view controller, and let's conform to the delegates, the data source, and we also are going to want to conform to the delegate flow layout. Now this will start complaining because there's 2 functions we need to bring in. So hit this error and hit fix, and it'll stub them out for you. And for now, we can simply, for this one, do returned collection view cell. Now, obviously, we're going to customize this quite a bit. We're just going to do this for now so the error goes away. We're also going to want did select item. And this function gets called once the user is going to tap on one of the cells, so one of the posts. And we're going to say collection view deselect item, add index path, animated true. And that's basically the backbone of how this view controller will be. So hit Command B, things should be compiling. And we also want to give this guy a frame. So let's override viewed layout subviews. And let's say its frame, its frame is going to be the entirety of the screen, so view.bounds. And that's a basic overview for profile. And I like doing final for all of these and also adding the doc strings. I think it's probably me doing this so many years. It's kind of a habit for me now. It's a really good habit to pick up, and you guys should definitely make sure your code is well designed and commented as well. So let's talk about notifications. So notifications, if you recall the normal Instagram app, it's simply a table view. Now it's customized quite a bit, but it is nothing more than a table view, and we can actually even give this a title here. So let's start off by giving this a title, and we're going to say it is notifications. We're going to say it has a background color of system background. System background. And we want a table view in here. We could just copy it from the settings controller, but let's just create it ourselves so we're not super lazy. So here we're going to say this is a table view. And we're going to create it in the same fashion as we did on the settings controller. Table view, we're going to register a cell to it. The ID is going to be cell, like so. We're going to want to make sure that the notifications controller conforms to the UI table view delegate and UI table view data source. And let's see, we want to add this guy as a subview. We want to set its frame and viewed layout subviews. So as you can kind of see, we're kind of stubbing out all these screens to be kind of iterated upon. And we're going to iterate on it and develop them further in the later videos. But I want to get kind of the backbone set up. we probably won't have time to get to the storage stuff and uploading images to Firebase. We'll probably save that for the next video, but let's get this groundwork out of the way. We also want to say the delegate is self and data source is self. We're going to want to say number of rows is going to be 0 for now. And self row add index path is going to be a table view dequeued cell at the given index path. Sorry, this is the identifier. So we're going to say cell, which is what we registered with above. And we're going to also create custom cells for all of these tables and collection views we're creating. So don't worry, we're not going to leave it like this. I'm just doing it like this to stub it out. Hit Command B. Should be compiling. So, okay, this middle tab. So this one's interesting. So this one is going to be a highly customized camera. And we're going to use AV Foundation to build our own camera and not use an image picker. So when I say build our own camera, we're going to hook into the actual camera hardware, and we're going to design taking pictures, videos, where the user can swipe left and right to go between the camera roll and various things. So we're not going to do that in this video because it's extremely involved. But what I will do is, let's say import AV Foundation, and let's do some basic things. The notable thing we want to do is we want the navigation bar to be hidden. So let's see, is toolbar hidden? We want set navigation bar hidden, and we're going to say true here, and animated will be false. So we don't want to show the nav bar. And let's see, what else do we want? We're going to want a picture, a button that, or the function that gets called when the user wants to take picture. Did tap take picture. So let's stub that out here. And let's just leave this as is for now. I think that's good to go. The Explore View controller is going to have basically a search bar up here and a pretty intricate collection view as well. So again, we're going to set our background color. We're going to create a search bar up here. And surprise, surprise, it's a UI search bar. And let's just create it in a very simple way up here. We're going to, again, need to customize this as well as we progress in the series. For now, let's just say search bar background color is going to be system secondary system background. And we are going to say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot top item dot title view is our search bar. And we're going to want a collection view here. This video is getting a little long, so let's do that and quickly wrap up. So private var collection view, UI collection view. And we're going to want to create it here as we did before. So UI collection, let's see, why is this complaining? UI collection view. This is a colon, that looks correct. Sometimes autocomplete is literally the most unhelpful thing. This is going to be layout. That said, actually, if you're working with Xcode 12, which is still in beta right now, which is why I'm not using it, autocomplete is far, far better. So that's something cool to look forward to. Scroll direction is vertical. And we're going to want to add this as a subview. It's optional, so we're going to need to unwrap it like that. We're going to want to set its delegate and its data source. We're going to want to set its section insets. And again, we're just going to stick with 0, 0, 0 all the way around for now. We're going to want to extend this controller, which is the Explore View controller. And it's going to be UI collection view delegate and the UI collection view data source, as well as the UI collection view delegate flow layout. And once again, I apologize, I'm going through this fairly quickly. I think in the next video, I might go through all this again and do a quick recap of all the things that we went through in this video since we're creating a ton of UI. So number of items is going to be 0 for now. And let's see, cell for item will simply return UI collection view cell. Hit Command B. We just wrote a ton of code. Let's make sure everything's compiling still. And hit Command R to make sure nothing is crashing. So nothing crashed here. Clicks on explore, nothing crashes. Cool, no nav bar up here. And if we click on notifications, we see that we have a title up here. One thing we don't want is the title showing up down here. So I'll fix that in a moment. We do see we have a table view per these lines. And then if we click in here, we also see that nothing is crashing. So all of our code that we've written is good to go. Let's get rid of that tab bar bottom title. So we can say tab bar item dot should be a title text. There should be a set title. So tab bar item is a UI tab bar item. So let's go to our browser and let's search for UI tab bar item, Apple developer. We're going to look at the docs really quick together. There should be a way to set the title on here. So I love going to the docs with you guys because it hopefully helps paint a picture of how I go about finding things. So there's UI tab bar item, and then looks like there is a items off of it. So there's set items, selected item, and let's see, standard appearance, leading. None of this is useful. So let's see if we can get items off of here. That's not what we want. Interesting. So let's actually click into this and let's see what we have available. So you can hold command and click into it like I just did there, and it will load up the internal implementation. So UI tab bar item. Let's click into that. So there's an initializer, all of this stuff, selected image, title position, badge color, badge text. Interesting. So it looks like it's not even here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to leave this out for now, and we'll have to look at documentation, and I'll look at it on my own time so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do it. But I think I'll wrap up the video here since we're about at time for what I want to keep these videos at. So that said, if you haven't destroyed the like button already, make sure to do so. As always, hit subscribe as well if you haven't done so. Comment down below with any errors, questions. Just want to say hi, whatever you guys want to throw down there. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next part.